Hi, in this video I am going to be going over a relatively new auto retopologizing plugin for Maya called Quad Remesher. Quad Remesher is created by the same person who created Z Remesher. They actually use the same algorithm. I have ZBrush and obviously Z Remesher, and I've tested them both out, and yes, indeed, it is the same formula for both, but there are some advantages to using Maya to do the quad remeshing than using the Z Remesher, even though they use the same algorithm. Okay, so I'm going to do a little demonstration. I'm going to import a simple little dress that I made in Marvelous Designer. Okay, import. There we go. Okay, so here's the dress that I made in Marvelous Designer and exported it out. Let's go to the editor. Okay, so here's the UV editor. You can see this is the flat 2D pattern that I made in Marvelous Designer, and then I made it fit the avatar, and I exported it out as an OBJ, as a single object, single welded object. Okay, so let me move this out of the way. Okay, let me open up Quad Remesher. Okay, one of the great things, and why I think even if you have ZBrush, you should buy Quad Remesher for Maya, if you're a Maya user, obviously, is the way you can control the edge loops. Now, you can draw guides in ZBrush, you can mask areas, you know, create different groups and all that kind of stuff, which is great. But what you can't do is you can't select an edge and create that as your guide. And you know, and so that makes a huge difference, because you can create edge loops in Maya very easily as guides. Okay, so what this does is I'm going to be using this one here, use hard soft edges. What it's actually using, it should just say use existing hard edge, because that's going to be the guide, not the soft edges. So I would probably rename that, but that's what this is right here for. Okay, so right now all the edges are hard. You can see it's faceted. Okay, so first thing we need to do is make it soft edge. Okay, now I have it set in Maya so that soft edges are displayed as dotted lines or dashed lines, however you want to put it. Okay, and I always like, when I'm rigging a dress, to have an edge loop that runs straight up and down right in the middle. That makes it so much easier to rig, and same in the back. Now I also like to have a nice edge loop that runs along the side, and I have one there. And these edge loops that you can see now in Marvelous Designer, these random edge loops are the interior of, or edges are the interior of the 2D pattern. But you do have straight edges here and here, and you do have a nice straight edge along here. These are the seams that were sewn together, and they always end up being nice and smooth. See, here's the seam here. They end up being nice and smooth. Now normally, or lots of times, you can just simply go into edge mode and double click to get that and harden the edge. You know, that would be very simple. But the problem is it doesn't work here on the sides. I double click, nothing happens. I could try to select contiguous edge, but you see, because it doesn't follow the edge, it follows it somewhat, but it can get off. So a really fast way of selecting these edges that I want to select is to go into the UV texture editor, or what's now called this UV editor, and select all the UVs, and select the shell border, and then go select convert selection to contained edges. Okay, now I have that edge selected, I have that edge selected, and that, and on the top, all the edges that I wanted to use as guides. And now I can harden them. So I'm going to harden them. And now let me move this out of the way. And go to object mode. And you can see now they're hard edges. Okay, one thing you do want to make sure of is you really want to examine the hard edges. See, there's an edge, hard edge there. If that edge was left there, it would mess up the results. So we want to soften that edge. So why don't we tear this down, off, soften edge. Okay, and there's one down. If you look very closely, let's see, there's one there. So you want to make sure that if there's any random hard edges, that you soften them. And yes, I know I could have hit G on the keyboard to repeat the last command, which is what I'll do now. Select it, hit G on the keyboard, that softens the edge. I know there's one there. Hit G on the keyboard, soften the edge. Okay, this looks fine. Yeah, that looks fine. So we've got all those. So like I say, you just kind of want to examine them. And that looks fine. So we don't have any other places where we were having an issue with hard edges. So yes, so good. Okay, so I'm going to go in object mode. Whoops. And I'm going to duplicate this just so that I don't have to undo a lot of things. And let me get rid of that camera. Okay. Now I have the quad count set at 1500. I have it set to adaptive quad count. I'm using the hard edge to be as guides, and I have detect hard edges by angle. That can be on or off. It might be good to have on, but you can play around with it. This uses materials. I could have selected a bunch of faces. And then applied a new Lambert to those faces, and then that would act like a new group, and then it would act as the border of that group would determine an edge flow as well. So you can do that as well, which is like creating groups, masking and creating groups in 3D Code. So you can still do that if you really like that particular way. Okay, so I'm just going to demonstrate, show what it looks like. It works really fast, and we got a pretty nice result. Now I didn't use symmetry because this fold back here isn't symmetrical. But you can use symmetry if you want. In this case, I guess it would be the Y symmetry. Yeah. Or no, the X symmetry. So you get a pretty nice result. But in Second Life, because we have appearance editors that can make the breast bigger or smaller, and the mesh gets stretched bigger and smaller, the breast area, this is not enough, nearly enough topology density in here. The quad density is not nearly enough. Now, if this was just a, if it wasn't going to change size, this would be just fine. Okay, and I want to also show you a different thing you can do, which is if I wanted an edge loop to go all the way around to try to control the edge flow a little bit better in this area, I suggest going into a view that is orthographic, Let me hide the grid so you're a little less visually confusing. And then you can go into your modeling tools. I'm using an older version of Maya, so I'm using Maya 2015. So I go into polygons. I think it's called modeling now. And then I would go to cut faces tools using a plane. And this is, like I said, this is one of the things that you can't do in 3D Coat, or not 3D Coat, ZBrush. And so I just create a plane, and boom. Say I want to do one that's a little bit more on angle like that, and then say maybe I want to make sure that it evens out there. So just like that, I have made, and of course I want to hit Q on the keyboard to get the select tool. Now these I can just double click and harden edge. And now those will act like guides. So if I duplicated that, and did that, you can see you can control exactly where the edge loops are going to go. It follows it perfectly. You know, if I wanted to add another edge loop, that kind of follows that, I could do that. I could even do another one that was kind of like that. That might be a little too much, but anyway, so you can add edge loops where you want, harden them, oops, sorry, object mode, duplicate it, and there you go. Got some nice edge loops. Now, I'm only recommending this for Second Life. I mean, if you, especially for, like I said, this is from a perspective of Second Life users. You know, if you're actually going to be making a gaming asset, I would highly recommend manually retopologizing, or using this just as a start-off point. But you can see it does make a really nice mesh pretty quickly. It's less than 3K. You know, it does keep the triangle count pretty close to what you've put over here. And it does make a really nice mesh pretty quickly. Okay. So I'm going to get rid of, what did that open up? Let's get rid of this one. Let's get rid of these guides because we don't really need them. If I can get my mouse on it. Okay, and then go edit mesh, delete edge. I know it's here. There it is, delete edge vertex. Okay. So, another way you can control things is, like, I know I want a little bit more resolution, a little more density around here where we have this fold. Okay, and I know I want a lot more resolution around here. So, it's real easy to do. Control color, paint vertex color. We're going to paint the vertex color. Now, whatever you set this for, like I want to make the folds and wrinkles back here, say I want to make them 3 times more dense. So I can go 3.0. And if you notice, the color over here changed. See, if I put this to 1, that stays exactly the same. If I put it to 4, it gets red, 3, there. And what the heck happened here? I have no idea what happened. What the heck happened there? Okay, something happened. I clicked a combination of keys that went a little crazy. Okay, let's re-import the mesh. I'm going to do this real quick. Normals, soften edge, UV. Come on. UV. I guess I probably could have selected shell. Probably could have selected shell. There's always more than one way to do something. There's probably 2. Convert selection to edges. No, see, didn't want to collect. I thought I might have been able to do it. I said there's always more than one way of doing something. I thought I might have been able to convert the selection in here. No, see, it doesn't work. I have to do it to contained edges. Okay, doesn't matter. Like I said, I'm sure people are screaming at the screen, oh, just do this, select the shell, and then select convert to contained edges or something like that. There's always faster ways of doing things. Contained edges, normals, harden edge. I need to go to edge. Oops. Go to edge. And I know I could have hit one of the F keys to do that. Okay. Normals, soften edge. Okay, so now we're back to where we were before. Okay, and duplicate it. Okay, so we have it duplicated. So what I want to do is I want to paint the vertex color. So I know the breast area I want to be 4 times as much. So I can come here and change that to 4, and that makes it 4 times. And it changed this color to pure red. And then I can start to draw, paint on here, this section of the mesh that I know I'm going to need to do that. That's a little too much. Okay, so that's pretty good. And then I also know that this section back here, say I want it to be 3 times as much. Not 4, but 3. I want the density to be a little more back here. Okay. So now that I have my density painted, and I turn on use vertex colors for density, now when I tell it to remesh, There you go. You have a lot more density in here, which is what you need. And you have more density back here because we have our folds and wrinkles. And you can even, if you like, okay, wait a minute, let me do this. Let me soften the edges. There we go. So that you can see what it looks like. So now we have, it's 5.5K mesh. It looks pretty nice. It's not perfect. I would probably add an edge loop here. Maybe even 2 edge loops here. Edge loop, so that there's 4 instead of 3 quads. You have 4 because shoulders need a little bit more, but that's okay. You can insert an edge loop real easy. We have enough density here. And if you look, it looks pretty nice. Now I will be going, I think I'll make a second video here in a few minutes showing how to smooth mesh real easy using 3D Coat. Like my favorite programs to make mesh clothing are Design with Marvelous Designer, Retopologize, and Rig using Maya. And use 3D Coat tools to relax the mesh and be able to relax it in such a way where this all becomes really nice and smooth. Because you can see here there's kind of a really sharp angle right there, and right in here. And so I'm going to do another video showing how to do that. And also with 3D Coat you can add edge loops real easy and relax them so that you get a really nice distribution. So but as you can see, this is, it's 2,700, almost 2,800 vertices, vertex count, which for Second Life is pretty low poly. Most designers, they make stuff that's super, super, super high poly, and that just causes lag and causes a problem. So while this may not be great for a gaming asset, there's a little bit of a problem here. It's not, it's not perfect. It's a great start. You could definitely fix this a little bit to make it a gaming asset, but it has pretty nice edge flow here. It just works so much nicer and faster, and you can control the edge loops, and you don't get the weird, you don't end up with spirals that you can get in Marvelous in 3D Coat, not 3D Coat, ZBrush. And like I said, you can control the edge loops by adding, an edge by slicing the mesh and putting the edge loops just where you want it. You can even draw or you can cut an edge manually to follow this, and then harden the edge, and then use that as a guide as well. So making guides is so much easier in Maya than it is in ZBrush. That's why I'm definitely say that you should get this program, this plugin for Maya, even if you have ZBrush. I mean, wow, and it did it really fast, and you just have such nice edge flow. So okay, so that's enough. That's enough for this video. If your mesh was symmetrical, like I said, I could have had some symmetry turned on, and then both sides, left and right would be perfectly symmetrical. This isn't quite perfectly symmetrical, but I didn't use the symmetry on because this isn't symmetrical. This fold back here isn't symmetrical. But yeah, I got nice density in here, and yeah, it just works really great, really fast. I highly recommend it, especially if you're making clothes for Second Life. You can paint the density where you need it. So you can paint it in here. You need it in here because the breasts get bigger and smaller with the sliders, with the apparent sliders. You need a little bit more density in here because you want a nice fold and wrinkle. You don't need as much density in here or here. So you don't need to make everything this dense and this dense here. You don't need to make the whole mesh that. That would just be a waste, and it would be, frankly, more difficult to rig because the more vertices you're working with, everything gets more difficult. So I highly recommend Quad Remesher. You can get a 30-day trial and try it out and see how you like it. So okay, so that's enough for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. You know, I hope you can see, you know, the before and after. And this is not a particularly dense mesh. I think I was using a particle density of 20. And like I said, in my next video, I'm going to show you how you can use 3D Coat to make this mesh even better. To make this mesh even better and look even better. You know, you won't get these jaggedy things here. You can, and it only takes a few minutes. So awesome. So we'll see you in the next video.